that time rarely indicated the voices that they wanted to play their music, the instruments used, and really actually the interpretation. They left really no direction to interpretation all the way until about Giovanni Gabrieli, which was in the Renaissance era in Italy. And
I want to give you back your microphone.
My microphone.
Okay. Put that to your shirt. There you go.
Anyway, the composers really left no interpretive direction in terms of dynamics or in terms of tempos. They really left it up to the musician. And for us now, basically what we do is we just follow basic performance structure. And the musicians at that time actually learned improvisational technique and knew they could take a mode and they could take a figure or a particular sound and they could just take off on it as an improviser or a jazz artist might do today.
So what you were doing with these tunes might not be so far out of line with what the composers back then would have done. You used different things.
I think they would have loved it.
You used digital percussion and things, but it was expected that you would do something. In fact, these tunes weren't even written in a key per se.
No, that's correct. That's absolutely right. No key indications. And in some of the paintings, in some of the cave wall paintings, and even some of the Egyptian tombs, they had some incredibly sophisticated instruments that they actually played on that we've now lost, that all we have really are pictures of these particular instruments. Now, if those composers of that particular day saw a trumpet, for instance, now this trumpet was manufactured and built, designed in the 1950s. Although if they had it 1,000 years ago, I'm sure that the Aryan people, you know, signaling their wars and signaling their aggressive behavior, certainly would have used trumpets to call of the wild.
Use yours to play something else. What is this next piece?
Well, this next one is going to feature actually our trombone player, Doug Wright, and this is called De Profundis, and it's by Nikolai Parme. Now, this particular arrangement is a very simple arrangement in that Doug will play a chant line, which will be answered by the chorus being the Empire Brass.
Sort of antiphonal.
Right, exactly. And this is really the beginning of spiritual question and answer kind of music. It's kind of like a statement and then a response. And it's very similar, actually, to gospel music of today.
So this is De Profundis, out of the depths.
Out of the depths of sorrow.
And this is the Empire Brass. My guests on Around New York today. De Profundis, played by the Empire Brass Quintet, Rolf Smedvik. Who wrote the tune again?
Nikolai Parme.
Yeah. About the year, approximately?
Oh, 1210?
Yeah.
Something like
Beautiful.
that. Yeah.
Now, how did you end up with Bruce Springsteen's drummer? Introduce me once again to Kurt
Actually, he's
Wortman.
not Bruce Springsteen's drummer, but he did appear in the soundtrack, the Philadelphia movie, with Bruce Springsteen. Among other people, he's also played with Sinead O'Connor, and he's the drummer of the Mark Isham Band, who's the Los Angeles-based motion picture writer. I met Kurt actually through a mutual friend, a musician here in New York. He introduced me to him a couple of years ago on the phone, and he said, "Rolf, you really ought to get together with this guy. I mean, he just does incredible things with percussion." And he came out to my place up near Tanglewood a couple of years ago, and we started demoing this little record that we call Passage.
Passage, the current
And,
one.
yeah, that's right. And Kurt is really a pioneer in the electronic drumming world.
Well, I think anybody can see that he's not sitting in front of a standard drum set. So, Kurt Wortman, how about a little demo of what you're actually beat on that thing?
Yeah, basically. These are basically just touch-sensitive pads or controllers that release sounds that I've recorded in this box back here, which is basically a computer. And so the simplest way of saying it is like you see synthesizer players that control things from a keyboard. Now there's all sorts of alternatives for drummers. For instance, this pad setup, they're called drum cats.
Cats?
Drum cats. They're made by a company called Cat.
I see. Instead of drum kit, it's a drum cat.
Drum kit. They have they've gotten a lot of mileage with the name.
I call my guys cats too.
Yeah, the cats. The cats. And so they're just controllers, and basically it's up to your imagination. I use a lot of different sounds. A lot of them aren't drum sounds at all, and a lot of them are. But you could take four guys with four other drummers with this setup, and we'd all have radically different approaches because it's really an invisible setup. It's just a controller or whatever.
Do you have to relearn how to, because the drummer learns where all the drums are on a trap set, so you can just automatically hit
It's a bit like an actor. It's more like an actor learning lines, where you don't really think about it after you've learned the lines. Each one triggers the next one, but as we go through each kit, or each song, the pads remain the same, but the sounds, of course, change every single song. So it actually comes pretty easily. You reprogram. Yeah, you reprogram, and then in terms of just remembering where they are, by playing, it just happens.
So this next piece is called Hopper Dance. What are you going to do on that?
Okay, this basically, it's a pagan dance as opposed to some of the more church-based or sacred music that we've done. This moves between basically, I've recorded this instrument, which is a doumbek, which I play, Middle Eastern instrument. This sound. That's in the lighter sections, accompanying, for instance, Eric when he's playing his solo and Rolf when he's soloing, and then the real bombastic, sections which are more large toms, large orchestral bass drums, that type of sound. So my role moves between those two.
I can hardly wait to hear it. This is called Hopper Dance, and this is the Empire Brass Quintet, and Kurt Wortman plays the drums. They're my guests on Around New York today.